Hello. Okay, now it should work properly. Okay, so I hope you guys can hear me right now. A quick confirmation, please, if you guys can hear me or not. If you guys can hear me, if you guys can see my screen. A quick confirmation in the chat would be appreciated. Great. So seems like my voice is clear to all of you folks right now. And in the meanwhile, we'll just wait for other folks to join in. And as it's customary for every live session, to all of the folks who have just joined in, those folks who are new to our channel, I'd like to inform you about Great Learning's initiative, which is Great Learning Academy, where you have more than 100 courses with respect to domains such as artificial intelligence, data science, cloud computing, digital marketing, and a lot more. And once you complete all of these courses or any of these courses, you'll get a course completion certificate, and you can go ahead and add that certificate onto your LinkedIn page or on your resume, and that will definitely be a huge value add to you guys. So the link for Great Learning Academy, you can find it out in the chat. And also, I've seen in the chat that some of you don't have your laptop with you right now. So if you would want to learn through an app, we also have the Great Learning app where you will find all of these courses. So the link for which you'll also be able to find it over here. So quickly, we have around 75 people watching this session, and if all of you folks could quickly hit the like button, and if you could reach around 70 likes, that would be much appreciated. So that's necessary because the YouTube algorithm works in such a way that if more people like this video, it'll be published in more people's recommended section, and people who are interested to learn Python or machine learning can join us for this wonderful session on Python for machine learning. And those folks who haven't yet subscribed to our channel, new folks who haven't yet subscribed to our channel, quickly go ahead and hit the subscribe button, as it would encourage us to come up with more such live sessions on a regular basis. And also, whenever we upload new courses, you will be notified which courses we are coming up with. Akanksha is asking, is the certified course paid? No. So on Great Learning Academy, most of the courses are free. So you can just go ahead and check it out. Great. So now that everything is clear, it's time to start off with our session. So the agenda for today's session is to work with some of the most important libraries in Python which are used for machine learning. So one such library in Python is NumPy. So as it is stated over here, NumPy stands for numerical Python, and this library, it helps you to do a lot of numerical computation. So whenever we want to do any sort of simple numeric computation, that is when we'll go ahead and use this library. So this provides us with multi-dimensional arrays and also different methods which we can use to work on these multi-dimensional arrays. So first, when we talk about multi-dimensional arrays, it would mean that obviously a single dimensional array would be a subset of a multi-dimensional array. So obviously we'd be able to create a single dimensional array as well as a multi-dimensional array. So to work with NumPy, we'd have to start off by importing the NumPy library. So we'll go ahead and we'll import NumPy. So we'll write down import NumPy as NP. So NP is the alias for this library NumPy. Then we'll go ahead and create the NumPy array. So to create the NumPy array, we'd have to write np.array, and inside this we will pass in a list of values. So here you will see that I have passed in 10, 20, 30 and 40, and this I have stored in this object called as n1, and I have printed this out. So this is the result which I get. Now similarly, if I would want to create a multi-dimensional array, so for that case, again, I'll go ahead and import NumPy. Then inside np.array, I will pass in a list of lists. So here, as you see, inside this list, I have two more lists. The first list comprises of numbers from 10 to 40. The second list comprises of numbers from 40 to 10. And this I go ahead and store in this variable called as n2, and I print it out. And as you see, I have this two-dimensional NumPy array over here. So let's just quickly head on to Jupyter Notebook. I'll open a new Python 3 notebook over here. Let's just wait for this Jupyter Notebook to open up. And our first task would be to load the NumPy array. So here I'll write import NumPy as np. And after this, we would have to create our first NumPy array. So I'll write np.array, and inside this, I will pass in a list of values. So I'll have 10, 20, and 30. And this I'll go ahead and store in this variable called as n1, and I will print it out. And as you guys see, we have successfully created our first NumPy array. Now, let me check the type of this. So we have this method in Python called as type, and inside this I will pass in n1, and when I hit on run, you would see that the type of this object which we've created is numpy.nd array. So over here, nd array stands for n-dimensional array. So we have created this single dimensional array. Now let me also go ahead and create a multi-dimensional array. So I'll just add a comment over here, multi-dimensional array. Now here, to create a multi-dimensional array, I'll write down np.array, and I'll have one outer list over here. Inside this, I will create two more lists. The first list, maybe I'll just give in values 1, 2, 3, and 4. The second list, I'll give in values, let's say 6, 7, 8, and 9. And this entire thing, I'll go ahead and store in a new object called as n2. And let me print out n2 over here, and I will also check the type of this, type of n2, and you would see that we have created a numpy nd array. So this is a two-dimensional numpy array over here. Please zoom. Okay, sure, I'll do that. This is a lot of zoom. Let me just decrease the screen size. I hope now the screen should be visible to all of you folks properly. So this is a brief intro to NumPy array. And now that we have created a single dimensional NumPy array and a multi-dimensional NumPy array, we'll go ahead and see how to initialize a NumPy array with only zeros. So sometimes you would want a NumPy array with only zeros because later on we can modify it with different values. So for this purpose, we have a method called as zeros. So we will invoke np.zeros, and inside that we will just pass in the dimensions of the NumPy array. So here, as you see, I am giving 1, 2, which is the dimension of this NumPy array. So 1, 2 would mean 1 row, 2 columns. And when I print this out, you will see that I have created a 1 cross 2 NumPy array where I have only zeros present. Similarly, if I would want to create a NumPy array of dimension 5 cross 5 where I have only zeros, here I will write down np.zeros. Inside that, I will pass in 5, 5, and as you see over here, I have created a 5 cross 5 NumPy array which comprises of only zeros again. Now let's just head back to Jupyter Notebook over here, and I'll give you guys an example of this. So now what I'm going to do is I will write down np.zeros as the comment over here, np.zeros, and inside this I need to give in the dimension. So let's say if I would want to create a 3 cross 3 NumPy array, I'll just give in 3, 3, and this I'll store in a new object called as n3, and I will go ahead and check the type of this, type of n3, and you would see that this is a n-dimensional array. Let me also print it out for you guys. So we have created a 3 cross 3 NumPy array which comprises of only zeros. Now let's say if I would want a NumPy array of some other dimension, again I'll write down np.zeros. Inside this I'll have, maybe let's say if I would want a 10 cross 10 NumPy array, I'll just give in the dimensions, and as you see I have a 10 cross 10 NumPy array which comprises of only zeros again. After this we have another method called as full method. So with the help of np.full we can initialize a NumPy array with only one particular value. So here if you look at this method np.full, this again takes in two parameters. The first parameter is the dimension of the NumPy array. The second parameter is the value which goes into this NumPy array. So here when I give in 2, 2, this would mean that I'm creating a 2 cross 2 NumPy array. And this 10 is the value which is being stored in this NumPy array. So again, let me just quickly add in a comment over here. I'll write down np.full. And now let me write down np.full. So first I need to give in the dimension of the NumPy array. So let's say if I would want to create a 5 cross 5 NumPy array, I will pass in 5, 5. And after that, what we'll do is, let me see if I would want to create a NumPy array which would comprise of the value 100. I'll give in 100 over here. And as you see, I have created a 5 cross 5 NumPy array which comprises of the value 100. So this is something interesting which we've just done. Then if you would want to initialize a NumPy array within a particular range, that is something which can also be done. So for this we have this method called as arange, and we will have np.arange, and inside this two parameters. First parameter is the initial value of the number which we want to store. Second parameter is the final value of the number which we want to store. So when I give in 10, 20, as you see over here, I'll get a value starting from 10 going on till 19, not 20. Because here you'd have to keep in mind that 10 is inclusive, 20 is exclusive. That is, your initial value is inclusive, the final value is exclusive. When I say exclusive, you will have, so if this is n, you will have the number till n minus 1. And then we have another example of this. So here this is the initial value, this is the final value, and then we also have something known as the skip value. So here when I given the skip value of 5, what is happening is after 10, instead of incrementing it by 1, we are incrementing it by 5. So 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 and so on. And finally we reach till 45. But 45 plus 5 becomes 50, and since 50 is exclusive, we will not have it stored in this NumPy array. So now that this is clear, we will just go ahead and create a NumPy array. So I'll have np.arange over here, and let me write down np.arange, and inside this, let me see. So if I would want the value starting from 300 going on till 500, since I would want 500 also to be included, I'll give in 501 over here. And when I hit on run, you would see that I have created a NumPy array where I have values starting from 300 going on till 500. Then if I will give a skip value over here, so let's say if I keep the skip value to be equal to 10, then in this case you would see that I have 300, 310, 320, 330 and so on. So this is how we can work with np.arange. Now since this is clear, I'll quickly head on to chat and take up some of your questions. So guys, I want this session to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any doubts or any queries, you can go ahead and put them up in the chat. I'll take your questions parallelly. Harshpriya is asking data science versus artificial intelligence, which is better? Please tell me. So these are two interesting domains when we talk about data science. So data science is an umbrella term which comprises of domains such as data manipulation, data visualization, you have statistics, you have machine learning, and so on. Now, data science, so wherever you're finding insights from data, you can tag that to be the field of data science. And also when it comes to data science, it's stat heavy. When I say stat heavy, you would have to be really good with all of the fundamentals of statistics. Now, where artificial intelligence comes is, wherever data science lacks, that is where artificial intelligence comes in. So now that'd be wherever you have heavy data, so you have large amounts of data, or maybe wherever you need complex processing. So that is where artificial intelligence comes in. And let's say if there is a lot of image processing to be done, or maybe computer vision to be done, so that is where you'll go ahead and use artificial intelligence techniques. And the primary distinguishing factor which you can talk between data science and artificial intelligence would be, let's say in data science, the use of neural networks is quite less, but in artificial intelligence, if you would want to work with artificial intelligence, then you would have to be good with artificial neural networks, because that is, that is what makes up artificial intelligence. So I hope that answers your question. And to work with artificial intelligence, you'll mostly be using frameworks such as TensorFlow, Keras, or PyTorch. Prabhu Kalyan is asking, is it okay to start off with data science without prior knowledge on machine learning? Sure. Machine learning is, again, it comes under the data science life cycle. So when we talk about the data science life cycle, so there are some stages. First stage would be acquiring the data. Then you pre-process the data. After pre-processing, that is when you apply machine learning algorithms. Once you apply the machine learning algorithms, you'll get a particular result. Now you would have to evaluate the result, and finally you will have to show that result to your stakeholders in the form of beautiful graphs. So just consider that machine learning is a part or a stage in the data science life cycle. So you can definitely start off with data science without prior knowledge in machine learning. Divya is asking why we didn't add array while creating NumPy with 0. So that's an interesting question, because this is the method. So dot zeros. So the zeros which you see is the method itself. So you don't have to explicitly give an array to create this NumPy array. All you have to do is give in the dimensions of the NumPy array. So when you have np.zeros, inside this, when you pass in the dimensions, you will, so this 10, 10 is the dimensions of the NumPy array, and it will automatically create a NumPy array which comprises of only zeros. You don't have to write array over here. So as you see, if I go up, so when I have array, I pass in some values. But when I use zeros, I don't have to pass in any values, because the only value which will be stored inside this is a 0. Right? So as simple as that, because the only value which is going inside this is a 0, you don't have to explicitly use array. Rahul is asking, is learning data science and machine learning, does it have any scope in stock marketing? Well, it actually does, because when we talk about prediction or classification or forecasting, you can definitely predict some things, you can forecast some things, but you have to keep in mind that if you are properly able to predict how much the stock will rise or how much the stock will fall, you will be a millionaire. So data science or machine learning is not a magic ball per se. I mean, it's not 100% accurate. So obviously, whenever you're building a machine learning model, you will never get 100% accuracy. But now in terms of this, when you're trying to predict if the stock will rise or if the stock will falls, the accuracy which you will get would be maybe around 60% or 65%. And here what will happen is you will and here you are not trying to predict the actual value. What you're actually trying to predict is, so let's say if it's a particular public company. So let's say if I would want to predict if the stocks of Reliance Industries will rise in the next 6 months or fall in the next 6 months. So that is something you can definitely predict. Now let's say if I have all of the data related to Reliance Industries for the last maybe 5 years. So on the basis of the data of this last 5 years with respect to Reliance Industries, I'll be able to predict if the stock will rise in the next 6 months or it will fall in the next 6 months. So this is something which can be done, but you have to understand that you can't predict the exact value. So let's say right now if Reliance Industry is at maybe around 360 points, it will be very difficult to accurately predict what will be the value of Reliance Industries after 6 months. But the indication, so let's say the rise or fall from 360, that is something you can predict with data science or machine learning. Sandeep is asking which programming language is better for data science, Python or R? Interesting question again, and this question is generally asked a lot. So the answer to that will be, I'd recommend you guys to learn both of them because both so as I was saying, I'll recommend you guys to learn both of them because both of them are equally used, and if you know one language, it's quite easy to learn the other language as well. It wouldn't really be that difficult to learn the other language. So also it would depend on the project which your company is currently working in. So let's say if it's mostly related to statistics or exploratory data analysis, then for that project you'll mostly be using R. On the other hand, if the project is related to, let's say, deep learning or computer vision, then you'll mostly be using Python. So both of them have their own advantages. Both of them provide their own unique libraries. So it would depend on what the project is and what the problem statement is. But I'd recommend you guys to learn both of them. It's not a question of either or, it's a question of and. Right. So keep posting your questions. I'll take them up later on. And also guys, we have around 104 people watching right now and we have around 87 likes. If we could quickly hit 100 likes, that would be appreciated. So all of you 104 people watching, if you could quickly hit the like button, and also if you haven't yet subscribed, if you could click on the subscribe button and also click on the bell icon, that would be swell. So we have looked at some of the basics of NumPy. Now, since we have to cover a lot of libraries, I've given you guys a basic gist of NumPy. And now we will head on to the next library, which is Pandas. So Pandas is a library in Python, which is the core library for data manipulation. And it provides single dimensional data structure and a multi-dimensional data structure. So the single dimensional data structure is known as a series object, and the multi-dimensional data structure is known as a data frame. So this data frame is actually a two-dimensional data structure where you have rows and columns. So we'll start off with the single dimensional data structure first, which is the series object. So as it is stated over here, it is a one-dimensional labeled array. Now, if we want to work with pandas, again we'll have to import the library. So we'll have import pandas as pd, and we'll have pd.series. So when we write pd.series, you have to keep in mind that the s is capital over here. So pd.series, where s is capital. Inside this, we will pass in a list of values 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this I will store in s1, and when I print it out, this is the result which I get. So as you see, I have created a series object where I have values starting from 1 going on till 5. And you will also have the labels over here. So these labels are nothing but the indices of these values. So the value 1 is present at index 0, value 2 is present at index 1, value 3 is present at index 2, and so on. And after this, when I check the type of S1, you will see that this is pandas.core.series.series, which essentially means that this is a series object which we have created. So I've given you guys some basic gist of NumPy array. Now we will start off with Pandas series. And let me go ahead and quickly create a series object. I'll have pd.series, and inside this, let's say if I would want a series object comprising of these values, I'll just write down all of the values starting from 10 going on till 50. Or I'd have to import the pandas library first. I'll insert a cell above and I'll write down import pandas as pd, and let's just wait for this library to load. It'll just take a couple of seconds because sometimes the system would be a bit slow. So this star mark which you had seen earlier, that would tell you that the library is still loading. Now when I click on this, we have successfully created a series object, and I'll go ahead and print out S1 right now. So as you see, I have created this series object which comprises of all of these values, and I'll also go ahead and check the type of this. Inside this, I will pass in S1, and we have created a series object. Now in the series object, initially the indices were numbers. So by default, you have the index values starting from 0 and then progressing by 1. But let's say if I don't want numeric values over here, I would want characters, I would want alphabets. So the indices can be changed. So for this, we have this attribute called as index. And as you see over here, I have 5 values. So I will give in 5 new indices over here. So instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, I'll have A, B, C, and D. So now the number 1 is present at index A, number 2 is present at index B, number 3 is present at index C, and so on. So here what I'll do is, I'll just copy the same command over here and I'll paste it, and I would just have to add a new attribute called as index, and I'll have to give in new indices. So let's say I give in the indices as U, V, W, X, so that's 4, and then I would also need Y over here, and I'll print out S1. So you would see that initially the indices were from 0 to 4. Now the indices are from U to Y. So previously we had created a series object from a list, but a series object can also be created from a dictionary. And as you see over here, we will have pd.series. And for those of you folks who are new to Python, you wouldn't know what a dictionary is. You can consider a dictionary to be key value pair. So here as you see, we have 3 key value pairs, A10, B20, C30. So here A, B, and C are the keys, 10, 20, and 30 are the values. Now inside pd.series, when we pass in this dictionary, all of the keys become the indexes, and all of the values will be your actual values in the series object. So this is how your dictionary is converted into a series object in Pandas. So now what I'll do is S1, let me just write down pd.series over here. Inside this, I will pass in a dictionary. The first key will be K1 and the value will be 100. Then the second key will be K2, value will be 200. The third key will be K3 and the value will be 300 over here. And when I hit on run, you would see that K1, K2 and K3 become your indices over here. 100, 200 and 300 are the values in the series object. So this is what we've done. Now we'll take care of this later on actually, because we have a lot of libraries to cover in this session. So now we'll quickly cover the two-dimensional data structure, which is a data frame. So as it is stated over here, a data frame is a two-dimensional label structure and it comprises of rows and columns. As you see over here, we've got name and marks, and the data frame is actually a heterogeneous data structure. So when I say a heterogeneous data structure, as you see over here, so we have string values and also numeric entities in the same row and column data structure. So to create a data frame from a dictionary, what we'll do is first we'll start off by importing pandas. After importing pandas, we will write down pd.dataframe, and here you would have to keep in mind that D is capital and F is also capital. So we have pd.dataframe. So let's say if you keep even D as small or F as small or both of them as small, you will not be able to work with this. So it's pd.dataframe where D and F are capital. And inside this, I am passing in key value pairs. So first key is name and the values for this are Bob, Sam and Danny. Then I have marks and the value for these are 76, 25 and 92. Then when I print this out, this is what I get over here. So I'll just have I'd have to keep this as capital, pd.dataframe. So I'll have to pass in a dictionary over here. So let's say maybe instead of students, I'll have fruit over here. So let's say the fruit is what we'll get as the column name. Then I'll pass in some fruit names. So let's say I have apple. Then I have banana. After this, let's say I have guava. And then after this, let's say I have let's just take maybe a watermelon over here. Now that we have given our first key value pair, we'll have to give in the cost of this. So we've got the fruit name. Then the next key would be equal to cost, and I will pass in the cost. So let's say apple, all of these apples cost maybe 40 bucks. Then we have banana, which would cost 12. Then we have guava, which would cost, let's say 78 rupees, and watermelon, which would cost 50 bucks maybe. And I'll just quickly hit on run. So you would see that we have created this data frame. I'll actually store this in an object called as D1. Then I will print out D1 for you guys. And I will also check the type of this, type of D1, and you would see that the type is pandas.core.frame.dataframe, which essentially means that we have created a data frame out of this dictionary. So here, as you see, the keys become the column names, and these values corresponding to the keys become the records over here. Now again, I'll head back to the chat and I'll check some of your questions. Prakash is asking what does 64 represents in input? If you're talking about D type integer 64, so you have different storage types of integers. You can have 32-bit integer storage space and 64-bit integer storage space. So by default, whenever you're giving any values into Python, these values are stored as 64-bit integers. Right, so Sarisha, to answer that to you as well again, so the 64 int 64 basically means the storage size for this integer is 64 bits. You can have 32-bit, you can have 8-bit, you can have 64-bit. So by default, the storage size for an integer is 64 bits. Manish is asking, would you give certificate or not for this session? So when you attend the live session, you will not get the certificate, but we have a lot of courses on Great Learning, and when you complete any of these courses, so after the course, once you complete the course, you would have to finish off an assignment or a quiz, and once you complete that, you will definitely get the certificate. Rishit is asking, after learning Python and libraries such as Pandas, NumPy, OpenCV, etc., what would you suggest next to do? I'm targeting data analytics as my first step towards data science. Sure. And now all of these libraries which you're talking about, that will cover your programming side of things. And if you would want to enter the field of analytics, so if you have attended my previous sessions, so this is what I keep telling you guys. So programming is just one pillar of data science. So, normally what happens is most of the students just learn Python or just learn R, and they go ahead and appear for data science interviews. So that is not what you should do. That is, that is just one pillar which you're covering. Right? The role which you are applying for is not for a Python programmer or an R programmer. You would want to be a data analyst or a data scientist. So to become a data analyst or a data scientist, your first priority should be to focus on statistics. So that is the fundamental base of data science. So you would have to learn topics such as measures of central tendency, measures of deviation, central limit theorem. You have normal distribution, Gaussian distribution. All of these important fundamentals of statistics you would have to know. So that when you have thorough knowledge of statistics, you would need to know how to implement these statistical concepts with Python or with R. So these two pillars are covered. Then you would have to know how different ML algorithms work. So you'd have to know about different algorithms such as linear regression, logistic regression, decision tree, random forest, and so on. And not just implement them with Python, but understand actually what is happening with the algorithm. So just implementing a linear regression algorithm with sci-kit-learn is easy. All you have to do is write down 3 or 4 commands, and you will be able to implement linear regression algorithm. But that doesn't mean you actually understand what is happening inside the algorithm. So you have to understand the math behind these data science or ML algorithms. So when you have these 3 pillars covered, the first pillar is statistics, second pillar is programming, the third pillar is conceptual understanding of all of the ML algorithms. Once these 3 pillars are covered, that is when you'll be ready to ace any of the data science or data analytics interviews. So I hope that answers your question. Rajiv is asking, I've seen some Hindi courses as well. If anyone completed Hindi course, certificate will be in Hindi or English. The certificate will be in English, Rajiv. So irrespective of, whether you complete the course in Hindi or English, the certificate which you'll receive will be in English. Sandeep, the course is valid for lifetime. Once you enroll for it, you can complete it whenever you want. Since all of these courses are free, you don't have to pay anything for it. So once you enroll for it, you can complete it at whatever time you're free or whatever time you have enough time to complete it off. Rahul is asking, how much knowledge of programming is required in data science and ML, like full command and OOPS concepts? Is this required for DS and ML? That's a very good question again, Rahul. So when it comes to data science and ML, so normally what happens is you have when someone in a company is hiring for a data scientist position, they get two types of candidates. The first candidate would be someone who has maybe a PhD or a master's in mathematics and statistics. So for those folks who have a PhD in statistics or maths, they'll be very good with all of the statistical concepts and all of the data science concepts, but their programming knowledge wouldn't be that sound. So these type of candidates should focus on improving their programming skills with respect to R and Python. Then the other types of candidates are those who are good at programming. So let's say if you have the computer science engineering students or any of the engineers, you might be good at programming, but you wouldn't have any knowledge about statistics or mathematics. So for this case, since your programming is good, you would have to focus on the other side, which is basically the statistics and mathematics side of things. So to answer it, it is an amalgamation of stats and programming. You'd have to equally focus on both of them, 50% of this and 50% of this. So it's not an either or sort of thing, right? So that is why data science, the domain itself is an amalgamation of a lot of things. So if you are good at one thing, that doesn't mean you'll get the job. You have to cover a broad area of things, and that is what will help you in landing the job. Kashyap is asking, how can I pursue PhD in data science? So once your bachelor's is done, either you can directly go for a PhD or do your master's first and then you can go for a PhD. So let's say I'm assuming that you've done your undergraduate studies. Now after your undergraduation, maybe you can pursue your master's. So maybe you can do your 2-year master's or a 1-year master, and after that master's degree, you can do a full-time, doctorate under someone, at a prestigious university. You can go ahead and pursue it. So there are a lot of universities which are offering PhD in data science. So for that purpose, let's say if you would want to do your PhD in data science abroad, you'd have to give your GRE. So GRE is an exam which you give to do your master's or to do your master's or PhD in the United States. So let's say if you want to do your PhD in data science in the United States, give your GRE, get a really good score. So the GRE is for 340 marks, and if you get maybe around 330 plus, you can be pretty sure that you can get into the top 20 universities in the United States. So there you can maybe aim for colleges such as maybe Rutgers, Carnegie Mellon. So all of these folks have really good data science courses. So there you can pursue PhD under a prestigious professor. Great. So again, we'll quickly head back to our topic. So I've covered enough questions. If you have any more questions, you can keep adding them. I'll go to that later on. And also guys, we have around 126 likes. If maybe other folks have joined in, and if we can hit 150 likes, that would be wonderful. So those folks who have just joined in and haven't yet liked the video, if you could just click on the like button and make it 150 likes, that would be much appreciated. And also those folks who haven't yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead, hit the subscribe button. That would be very helpful to us, since we don't charge anything from you guys on YouTube. If you hit the subscribe button, that will show your love towards us. So now that we know about this, we have covered a bit of data frames as well. Now let's see actually how can we do a bit of exploratory data analysis on top of this data frames. So we have created our own data frame, but what if we'd have to work on CSV files which are present externally? So to read a CSV file, I'd have to write pd.read_CSV, and inside this I'll give in the name of the file. I'll write down iris.csv and I will store this in a new object called as iris. So as you see over here, I have I had a CSV file called as iris.csv, and that I'm storing in this new object called as iris, and I will have a glance at the head of this. So I'll have iris.head, and as you see over here, this is what I get. So this iris CSV file has these 5 columns: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and species. So this head method gives us the first 5 records of the data frame. Now instead of the first 5 records, let's say if I would want to look at the top 10 records, then I'll just give in the value 10 inside this, and as you see over here, I have the top 10 records. So an analogous method which is a method which is similar to head is the tail method. So the tail method gives us the last 5 records of the data frame by default. So when I have iris.tail, you would see that I have the records starting at index number 145 and going on till index number 149. So this is the head method and the tail method. And similarly, let's say if I would want to have a glance at the last 10 records, I will have 10 inside this, and I have looked at the last 10 records of this data frame. Now, if I would want to extract some records on the basis of a condition, let's see how can we do that. So out of this data frame, let's say if I would want to extract from the sepal length column, let's say if I would want to extract only those records where sepal length is greater than 5. Let's see how can we do that. So I'll write down iris. I'll have parentheses over here. I'll give in quotes, and inside this I'll give in the name of the column which is sepal length, and I'll give this condition which is sepal length needs to be greater than 5, because I'd want to extract only those records from this entire data frame where the value of sepal length is greater than 5. When I hit on run, what you'd see is I get a bunch of true or false values. Let me delete this for you guys over here. As you see, I have a bunch of true and false values. So what does this mean? So here, as you see, I have the value 5.1 and I have a true over here. So wherever this condition is true, I will have a true result. Since this is not greater than 5, I'll have a false. Since this is not greater than 5, I'll again have a false. So I have these bunch of true and false values, but what I want is all of those records where the condition is true. So for that, what I'll do is I'll give in the name of the data frame again. I'll cut this condition and I'll have this condition inside the data frame itself. So what I'm doing is from the iris data frame, I am extracting all of those records where this condition is evaluated to true. When I hit on run, and if you look at this column right now at sepal length, you would see that I have extracted only those records where the sepal length value is greater than 5. Now similarly, let's say from this entire data frame, if I would want to extract only those records where the petal length is greater than 3, right? So this is something which I can do. So I'll have iris. Here I'll write down petal dot length is greater than 3, and this I'll store inside the iris data frame again. And when I hit on run, so as you see over here, I have extracted all of the records where the petal length is greater than 3. So this is something interesting which we have done over here. And now we have covered NumPy, we have covered Pandas. We will quickly cover one more library which is essential for machine learning, which is Matplotlib. So Matplotlib is a library which is used for visualization. So with the help of this library, you can draw different plots such as a scatter plot, line plot, histogram, bar plot, box plot, and again a lot more. So as I've told you, this is a library for visualization. So first, what we are doing over here is we are importing NumPy to create the data. Then we'll import Matplotlib. So we'll write down from Matplotlib import pyplot as PLT. So here pyplot is a sub module which is present in the Matplotlib library, and we are giving this an alias of PLT. Then after this, what I'm going to do is I would need something to plot on the x-axis and something to plot on the y-axis. So to create the data which will go onto the x-axis, I'll use np.arange, which I have just worked with. I'll have 1, 11, which will give me data points starting from 1 going on till 10. Then I have y, the data which will go on to the y is just 2 times of x. So here I have the value starting from 2 going on till 20. Then I have my data ready. To make the plot, I'll just write down plt.plot, and inside this I will have x, y. So x, as you see over here, consists of values starting from 1 going on till 10, and that is what we have plotted over here. Y, we have values starting from 2 going on till 20, and that is what we have plotted over here. And as you see, we have successfully created our first line plot over here. So this is how we can work with Matplotlib. So I'll quickly write down this Matplotlib, and our first task again would be to import the required library over here. So I'll have from Matplotlib import pyplot as PLT. Again, we'll have to wait for a bit for this to be loaded. So this is done. I'll create the data which will go onto the x-axis. So this will be equal to np.arange. Inside this, I'll have 1, 11. And let me print out x for you guys over here. So x has elements starting from 1 going on till 10. Then similarly, so y, I don't have to use np.arange. I can just have y as 2 times of x. And I'll print out y for you guys over here. So y has the value starting from 2 and going on till 20. Now to make the plot, I'll have plt.plot. I'll just pass in the values of x, y. Then I will write down plt.show over here, and we'll quickly wait for the results. So as you see, we have made our first line plot. Then now this seems very bland, doesn't it? So we don't have a title, we don't have the labels for x and y axis. So let's quickly add that. So I'll add a title with the help of this. So I'll have plt.title, and I'll keep the title as line plot. Then I'll have an x-axis label. So I'll have plt, I'll write down plt.x label. And here I'll just write down x-axis, and I'll have plt.y label. And here I will write down y-axis. And when I hit on run, you would see that I have added the title, the x-axis label, and also the y-axis label. Let's say if I would want to change the color of this line. So the color of this line can also be changed. So here what I'll do is inside plt.plot, I'll add another parameter called as color. And let's say I want to change this to green color. So I'll just write down G over here. And as you see, initially the line was of blue color. Now I am going ahead and changing the color to green. And if I would want to change the thickness of it, that is also something which I can do. So I'll have a new attribute called as line width, and maybe I given the value of 4 for this. And as you see, I have also changed the thickness of this line. So this is how we can create a line plot with the help of Matplotlib. So again, time to head on to the chat and see if there are any more questions. Sci-kit-learn is asking, is there any difference in data structures of C and Java? Now, when you say data structures, are you talking about the concept of data structures and algorithms? If you're talking about the concept of data structures such as linked list, array, stack, and queue, then I'd say there is no difference. It's just that these concepts can be implemented with any language. So all of these data structures, linked list, stack, queue, array, all of these can be implemented with any of your languages. They can be implemented with C, C++, Java, Python. So there's no limit to it. And Deepika is asking, is it necessary to be excellent in math to learn data science and machine learning? You don't have to be excellent, but the fundamentals you definitely have to know. If you don't know the fundamentals, then it will become extremely difficult to get that core data science or data analytics job. So as I've told you guys, there are some things which you need to know. So you need to know about, if you have a pen and a paper, you can just note it down. So these are some things which you definitely need to know. When it comes to statistics, you need to know about measures of central tendency, measures of deviation, central limit theorem. Then after that, you have something known as hypothesis testing. So in hypothesis testing, you would have to know about null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. Then you have something as p-value and z-value. So learn all about this in statistics. Then when it comes to probability distribution and probability, you need to know about conditional probability, you need to know about Bayes theorem. Then in probability distribution, you definitely need to learn about normal distribution, because whenever we are dealing with data, if the data is normally distributed, then it helps us in a lot of ways. In a normally distributed data, your mean, median, and the mode would be equal at the peak point. So you would have to know about the different features of normally distributed data. So learn about all of these different fundamentals in statistics and probability, and it's absolutely necessary. So master these. Then if you want to learn more, then it's up to you. And also when it comes to linear algebra, you need to good with basic linear algebra and basic matrix operations. So let's say matrix multiplication, dot product, vector product. So these basic concepts are something which you need to know about. So I hope that this answers your question as well. Sandeep is asking, I'm a mechanical engineer and quite interested in machine learning. Can I pursue my career in this? Is there a subset of these two different fields? Absolutely, Sandeep. So the good thing about data science is it is applied across different fields, right? So that is a very, very good point of data science. Now, when you talk about mechanical engineering, so now in mechanical engineering, let's say if you specialize in automobile engineering. So here, and let's say you do your specialization in automobile engineering, and let's say you decide to work for a big car company such as Ford, or maybe even I don't know, Lamborghini or Ferrari. There you would be dealing with a lot of customer data, you'd be dealing with data related to the different parts of your car, the different raw materials which would go into building that car. So here, let's say where data science would be applied is to understand the customer data, or maybe to reduce the cost, which would to reduce the cost in getting all of the raw materials. Now over here the problem is, let's say if you're building a car such as Ferrari, you would have a lot of different materials which would go into that. And if the initial investment is, let's say, around maybe $10,000, and if you would want to reduce it to $9,000, then how will you do it? So this is where you'd have to do a lot of research with respect to data. You'd have to understand what works, what doesn't work, and then apply different techniques which would help in cost optimization. So absolutely yes, data science can be used with respect to with respect to mechanical engineering and a lot of other domains as well. So guys, I guess this would be it from my side today. So I have answered as many questions as I could today, and if I was not able to answer any of your questions, we'll try to cover it up in the next live session. So we'll be taking a lot of live sessions on a regular basis. So if there's anything that we have missed out, we'll cover it up in the next live session. So thank you very much for attending, and have a great learning ahead.